Alright, I'm probably going to edit this later anyway, so this is going to be a bit of an intro. We're going to be watching the Cogent roleplay explained by Jazza and Shadiversity 15-minute video. I'm going to pause it as I feel like, and I have people coming in and out of general chat to discuss it with us. Let's start the video. I'll give my thoughts and critiques if they actually get to the rules, because I've heard some rumors that they don't.
It's tabletop time. I'm Jazza. Welcome. This is my first ever podcast and okay, so I'm making a video and a podcast at the same time. So people watching it on YouTube, I'm excited to let you know that I will be releasing gameplay sessions of Cogent Roleplay and Tabletop Time on various podcast consumption platforms. All of those will be laid out at itstabletoptime.com/podcast. So go check that out. I'll put the link in the description, and it's just going to be a great way for you to enjoy some roleplay and let's play sessions without needing to watch a YouTube video, or if you prefer to listen to something while you drive. It's just hopefully gonna just bring more fun tabletop goodness to more people who...
This is just an ad segment for them making an audio version of the podcast. That's it. That's fine.
Nice.
I have nothing wrong with it.
That's
just
literally what he does for the first like 5-10 minutes, is he's just like talks about stuff.
you know that's fine. I'd say he's doing the average podcast thing of yeah, no.
It should probably be
fine.
noted that Jazza does this every video, no matter if it's tabletop time or draw with Jazza.
Not for this long though.
Maybe cut it down then. All right, let's keep watching.
Consume it that way. For people currently listening to the podcast, first of all, thank you for listening to the podcast. This is the first episode, and it's going to be a little different to most of the other episodes in the sense that all of the videos and podcasts are really going to, for the most part, be gameplay sessions, storytelling sessions, using a system that my brother and I have created.
One second. Let me see if I can get you guys on stream. Give me a second. Discord, media capture, window capture. At source. Source. Where's Discord? Discord.
Hey, Errol,
there you go.
You're sounding really choppy there. Or is it me? Am I sounding really choppy?
It could be
no,
me.
you're not sounding very choppy. It's not Errol. He sounds fine.
Maybe your connection.
He sounds choppy.
Filters. There we go. I'm gonna crop this. Scaling, chroma key crop. There you go. And right. Okay.
Do you want to watch it on Watch Together instead? And,
no, I'd rather not.
Really?
Okay. 2000.
But it's the true EFAP experience.
I know, I don't want to. We could. I'd rather not. We have Wolf in here, that's good enough. Let's see, it's 200. No. 250, I think it was. And then height of like 1,000. Yeah, there you go. X 100. No, it's like 500. 800. 700. Sorry, you can't see what I'm doing here, but it's gonna work. It's fine. And X is like 100. There you go.
It's gonna work.
100.
Okay.
There you go. And now I can move this down. There you go. You'll appreciate this in the video if I upload this.
Will I though? Will I really?
You'll be able to see who's talking, so yes.
Nice.
So,
all right.
Fine.
All right, let's see.
Cogent roleplay. It's similar to something like Dungeons and Dragons, where really it's a group storytelling mechanism, except that where Dungeons and Dragons is much more on the game side of role-playing game, Cogent Roleplay is much more on the role-playing side of the storytelling focus. So this video and this first episode of the podcast is really about explaining a little bit about how Cogent works, so that as you enjoy future play sessions, you can quite easily follow along, know how we're getting those stories to happen, and how some of those feats or disasters or wonderful things or horrible things are happening, unraveling, being accomplished, how we've built our characters, how the stories are being told, and also hopefully how you can enjoy telling some of these stories on your own or with some friends by using our Cogent roleplay system. So I'm going to introduce very shortly my brother Shad, who co-created the system Cogent Roleplay.
Stop here for a second.
Yeah.
I come from primarily a system called Realms, which was primarily meant for being a show. It's meant to be fast. It's meant to, the combat is meant to be fast. So if this goes in the same method of making things faster so you can get more story and have a more interesting combat if you want, I'm all down for that. Because
Yeah.
I've played Dungeons and Dragons, and it's more of a slugfest at times where you don't have an easy way out of the fight, where this system definitely does already, because I've played this like 10 times, and I can definitely see that you can just end the combat like really quickly.
Yeah, I remember with D&D and stuff itself, the gameplay, it being so gameplay centric. I mean, normally that wouldn't be that bad, you know, because that's what a lot of games are. But the problem is with D&D, I feel like the gameplay itself isn't that good with the way the rules are and how
Yeah, there are a bit
complex,
too many.
stitched
Cogent,
together
we
they are.
were talking about this before, about how Cogent doesn't have enough
Yeah.
rules, and I feel like it's an issue that can be solved a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely. And there's also how Cogent doesn't have a bunch of basically DLC.
Yeah, alright, let's start this.
With me. But before I do that, I just want to make a few quick announcements, which I'm very excited about, and that is that content and Let's Play and roleplay stuff is going to be starting very shortly. And with it, some really exciting community-based contributions to the roleplay will be done through Patreon. And all of the support in Patreon is going directly to content. Basically, the more patrons we have, the more content I can make and have produced. And also, the more ambitious and exciting stuff I can do in the future, and the more that can be put back into Cogent Roleplay, the system itself, as we develop an app.
Same. I want to do the same thing, except the app development side of things. Hire me.
As we create the website and the tools to make this free storytelling experience as good as possible for you. So it really will be going exactly where you want it if you're a fan of Tabletop Time or Cogent Roleplay. The thing that I'm excited to share about the patronage is that people who are of the mid-tier of Patreon will have exclusive access to a Discord group and will be able to vote on the themes or the worlds and settings of one-shots that will be taking place in the future. And the first one will be launching in a few days, where you'll be able to vote on the world or the one-shot we'll be playing in. I'm very excited about that. The top tier of patronage is an extra special one, and will, as well as being able to vote on all those experiences, you'll also be part of a regular raffle to be an NPC in one of the worlds or stories that is created. Whether you want them to be named after you or an original character, you will be able to work with me or the narrator of that world or story directly to have a little bit of your personal touch put into the world or story, the podcast episode, or the Let's Play video we create. So I'm really excited to make worlds stories. And
if you have the money
really
and you want to support it, that's a good way to
and I want to thank you for your support.
pay people
the link
back.
to our Patreon page is in the description. It's patreon.com/.
No, I just want to explain this. It's a good way of paying people back, specifically because it doesn't cost them money to do it.
Yeah.
Because then they still get the funding to continue making Cogent, and they don't have the problem of other startups like Star Citizen, I think it's called, where they just spend the money to get more money and never actually develop anything. So I don't mind this. I used to have a problem with things like this, and I was like, why would anyone ever buy it? And then it's like, you know what? I don't mind it.
I have one question though. So did you say that they already had the votes and decided what they'd be doing in a few days, or
I
did he
Yeah,
I don't. I'm pretty sure
say
he
that they'll
was
be doing?
saying like not only now but like in the future there will be more votes. I don't think there has been a vote yet though.
this
Okay.
sounds like a
Yeah,
divine
'cause
decision,
I'm
but
wondering.
democracy.
I don't know. The thing is, like, they're having a thing in a few days, and they haven't had a vote for it yet, so they probably haven't developed it that much yet. Maybe.
You
I
know
mean,
what?
they probably developed the ideas that they have and that they're voting on.
Is
But
anyone here on
I'm just a bit
his
curious about that.
Patreon?
Nope.
I'm not.
I think I'm gonna be.
All right. All right. Well, let's continue.
Tabletop time. And now with content about to start, bigger and better than ever before, and with a lot of new people subscribed to Tabletop Time, the channel is now double the size that it was a week ago, which thank you, by the way, for joining up. I'm excited to see how far we can take this train. I am excited to introduce
cool.
my brother Shad of Shadiversity, who co-created Cogent Roleplay with me, so you guys can follow along as seamlessly as possible with future storytelling experiences, and hopefully
As though we
hear
don't
something you
already know
like
what
in our
that is.
roleplay session,
Yeah.
so you can get involved, get playing yourself, and even give us a bit of your feedback. I'm delighted to welcome Shad from Shadiversity, my brother and co-YouTuber and co-creator of Cogent. But before we jump into all
So
that
I
stuff,
have like
let's start off by plugging.
the thing is was that you know, anybody who knew about everybody who knew about tabletop, or half will say, because you know, he just said they doubled their subscribers by the announcements, but like pretty much everybody already knows that
Yeah.
like Shad was doing this with Jazza before, so
Yeah.
having him get introduced, I feel is a bit unnecessary.
It's not really
it's
much
more
of
of
Yeah, I
It's
think
more
it's
of-
for like the new watchers who haven't.
Yeah.
actually
For the
No,
ones
it-
that the ones that watch
Yes.
Jazza's channel exclusively.
And for the newbies that haven't played any role playing games yet or are just starting, you know, gotta throw in their
Oh
stuff.
yeah, I can understand that. But I remember
it should be brought to mind that this is for people who are just getting into tabletop time, mainly. Like for us who've played a round or two, this is a freshen up, but it's not necessarily new for us. While for people who are just getting into tabletop time, this is very important for them to be able to kind of get going.
Yeah, but by the way, I
Oh,
just
yeah,
want to say
get
I have
that.
never
don't really have an
watched.
issue with it.
This is the first video I think I'm watching of Tabletop Time.
It's
Ooh,
same.
you need to
This
go
is the
into the
first one I
history.
watched of tabletop. Yeah.
So like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an issue with it. And I think
I know
Oh.
I have watched like I'd say 85% of Shad's videos, and I've watched Jazz. I'm sorry, you upload so much. I watched some of your videos. I don't know what percentage.
I haven't watched any of Jazz's videos.
Like
Yeah,
actually,
like-
I've watched a good amount.
like I was a fan at one point when I had tried drawing, and then I gave up on it, and I did 3D art instead. And I gave up on that, and I did 3D math art instead with vectors.
Wow,
I mean, it worked
yeah,
out pretty well.
'cause,
I can understand that.
like
Math art is still art.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, let's continue. Sorry, were you going to say something?
Sure.
I was just gonna say, like, yeah, this is the same, like, first tabletop. Yet I know Shad, I know Jazza. Like most people, they're gonna know both of them, but not know tabletop time yet. And yeah,
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
let's continue.
Something very exciting that you have just launched.
Indeed. First of all, very pleasure to be here, Jazza. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming.
I'd be very offended if you didn't, though.
I would never live it down at the family Christmas party.
Indeed. So, exciting
just
stuff.
launched a
Yeah,
new
exciting
channel.
stuff with a Cogent coming, back into the thing, which is our roleplay system. I'm also launching a new YouTube channel, okay, which is going to be kind of like role playing.
But what's it called? I'm
It's
at the edge of my seat.
called Game Night.
Ah, with a K.
Indeed.
I tried to look
So
I think that's already a channel.
Yes, the K.
I can't find it. But, I mean,
Play
oh yeah,
Magic.
there's already another game night channel.
Yeah, they play Magic.
I'm not much interested in that one. I
yeah.
tried to
there's,
find his channel and I couldn't find it. And I think a bit later in the video he says he already has it made, but I don't know where.
Maybe
it is, 'cause
he
hasn't
hasn't made
on
it.
this channel.
It
Yeah.
has it made, but there's not a single video on the channel yet.
It's gonna
Okay.
be okay. So I'll say this from having a channel that's very small. It's almost impossible to find a channel with less than 5 subscribers. And if he just made it, like, it's not gonna, even though it's Shad, it's not gonna have any views or anything, so it's not gonna get
Yeah.
recommended.
Okay.
I don't
Once
think they
we
even
upload,
link
like,
the
one
channel in
video,
the
it'll be
description.
All right, let's continue for now.
Is important. I'm glad you remembered that. Thank you,
It's
Jazza.
on brand.
Yes,
I
indeed.
understand. That's important.
Some good art.
Speaking of being on,
So on your
brand,
channel, you're
It's
going
a
to be
good
doing
rap.
roleplay content, but also podcasty related things. I might rant about, I don't know, the last episode or something that, you know, I've been watching and stuff like that. Roleplay sessions with my kids as well. Maybe live stream gaming,
Yeah.
like video gaming and stuff.
And then
so
in the future, we'll be able to jump on each other's
Yeah, I'll
channels
be coming
and
onto
roleplay.
Tabletop Time,
So we'll
and Jazz will be coming
basically
onto
you're getting
game night.
double the goodness.
extra content, because I've always wanted to make my own roleplay content.
He's
but also have an area, a
diversifying
channel where I
content.
can
That's
do
good.
A lot of other stuff I enjoy. Bit of an outlet.
Yes.
It's going to be casual, going to be fun and relaxed. Go subscribe to Game Night. That's the thing. But now we're actually going to be sharing with you how to play
There's a lot
our
of Game
roleplay
Night
sessions,
channels,
actually.
actually.
Consider this an introduction. If you want to listen to any of our role-playing sessions, you want to know basically what we're doing or how it works, it's really simple and we're going to run through that. But also if you want to give it a go yourself, sometimes going straight into reading a rule book can feel a bit confronting, and it might be an easier start to listen to us.
Jazz is revealing he doesn't like to
I
read.
don't like instruction manuals or rule books. I really don't. Been working on it
Same.
for a long time. We released the alpha on Tabletop
Hence the
Time back in
simplified rules.
2015.
Yeah, honestly.
And it's been on hiatus.
I'll be
We
right back.
recently came back together after 4 years of not playing,
And so when we're playing, like, oh,
coming to it completely fresh.
how do we do this? So,
Found
so we
it's
looked it
got
up.
like 300 subscribers.
And when I was reading this, I was like,
This is really good.
this is really good. Who wrote this? Because
We did.
because
It was just sitting there,
Jazz is
wasted
not-
potential.
Jazz is not smart enough to
Didn't
make this.
obviously
Neither
know.
am I. As I was
Well, that's true.
like, and like,
But with
our powers combined.
you have a great way of creating substance and catering to the people who really want that depth in gameplay. My skill set is
I see
link, buddy.
what I guessed this entirely, and this isn't the Cogent magic video. I guess that Chad was the one to design the combat system, like most of it. It's like it speaks Shad to me.
Really?
Yeah,
It's a mix between the two of them.
no, I agree, but
I'd say Shad's one who
but
made
it's
the
like-
rules, and I think like Jazza probably went
Yeah.
back over them and was like,
Yeah.
"Here, make this simpler."
Mhm.
so
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like Jazz has simplified it a bit.
Yes,
But
that's what he's
Yep,
about to say.
they explain it in the video later on.
all right, well, I guessed this like a week
No,
or so
like
ago.
it's like seconds from now. Jazz is gonna
Yeah.
say like yeah.
Either way, I called it because I was like,
Yes.
dude,
Yes, you
this
called
this
it.
speaks like Shad.
more in the simplifying of things. I'm a simple guy. I like simple things. And I
Oh my god, he actually did. Okay.
Yeah,
that's an
it
advantage,
literally
especially
seconds
for
later.
people
2
who
seconds.
want to play something like D&D and like me get thrown off. So I've never read a full rule book of any system, and Shad has read many. And we meet in the middle and have constructed something we're really proud of.
Because on my side, I don't necessarily like complex rules, but sometimes complex rules are needed, some people assume, to achieve the thing that I really do like, which is giving me the ability to do anything I want in regards to my role-play sessions. If I'm playing a character and I think of something that I want the character to do, and logically the character should be able to do based on their abilities,
should
I
be
want
able
to
to
be able to
do
do
it.
it.
Yeah.
And if the rules simply say I can't, I really get annoyed, and that rule system is therefore unsatisfying to me. So with my desire of having a sophisticated rule system that gives me everything I want, and Jazz's desire for simplicity,
play and it be
it's made
approachable.
something far simpler than I could have made, but it still gives me everything that I wanted, the sophistication I wanted.
Yeah.
And as a result, I look at it as like,
This is really good. Yeah. So we came to it with fresh eyes, and we were
Yeah,
I'm gonna start
I
with it
feel
again.
like Shad. is,
Their
like,
brother,
representing-
baby.
No, I mean I'm
Yeah.
gonna say that I completely agree with them on
Yeah.
like essentially the entire system, with the exception of assists.
Yeah, like
With the exception of
Shad
this,
is
with the
just
exception.
generally.
Sorry, you're gonna say
Which
something.
You might feel different towards the end because I know I'm not fresh eyes on this. I've actually been through the entire video right before
Alright.
jumping on this call on accident.
No problem.
So I would say stick around and keep your eyes open
so
and your ears open.
this is just my thing before I come into the video. I think that the system is amazing. I think they need to rebalance assists, and then it will be perfect. Because
yeah.
I don't like the statistical probability of getting a positive outcome is very, very small unless you make a hyper-focused character. And I can tell this because there's a very big difference in character sheets of people that have played the game before and the people that have not. The people that have played the game before have like 3 or 4 skill points spread out in very specific things that you want to be doing, and the new players have 1 or 2 skill points spread out everywhere. And the new players are finding that they literally cannot use this as system because they would fail or get a negative like most of the time. It's just very punishing. And I had some players complain about, hey, why do I have 2 points in being a thief when like every time I try to use it, I get a negative roll? Like even if it's I don't like that aspect of it.
You also have Z in your game, and Z is from old sort of old tabletop time. You know, he did games with them. And didn't he agree?
He essentially did, yeah. It's like he faulted firsthand, or he like it's in the Cogent assist video I did. He got the like he did literally that. He tried to assist with persuasion, and he had 2 points in it, and he still like got a very bad roll. Even though it was like an average roll, he got a -2 wins because even with an average roll, and that's devastating in this kind of system.
And so what that means also is that getting success, you don't even succeed by much, right?
Yeah. It's if you succeed, the margin of success is very small, and if you fail really badly. I don't.
So what do you think the best way to balance it would be?
I'm not sure. I have heard different suggestions, and I've yet to make my mind up.
Just let them be added.
I don't
May I
wanna
propose something? Something I would do as a narrator. Instead of having the base CL for challenge
3?
level be 3, it would be 1.
I would.
So therefore, it would be somewhat easier, and it would be less devastating.
So the best suggestion I've heard so far is make it a recommended minimum CL of 3. That's the best suggestion I've heard so far, because I've heard the arguments as to why it has to be minimum CL of 3, and I agree with them. However, I think that it's too high in some instances.
So I understand 1 being low. So what is the look at, like, have you ever sat down and looked at if it was 2? Because that would be 1 under 3, but it's not so low that it's impossible to get detrimentals from it.
I'm currently playing by the rules in my campaigns, so I have not done any homebrew in that part.
Alright,
let's continue.
Really quite invigorated and excited to make use of something that had so much potential, which we're doing. It's all work in progress. We're currently still in alpha, but the core rules are pretty well set in stone. So we're going to go through the core stuff today that is unlikely to change in any large way, but there are some fine-tuned stuff that over time we will shape with your help to make it the most powerful roleplay system in the world. So go join the...
Yeah, I'd say like 90% of the system right now is completely fine, and I would not change it. It's solid.
Yeah. It's all the assists.
Maybe I would add a few like more combat modifiers or status effects.
Like a
So they
few
would be more
small things
specified.
here and there, and it'd be perfect.
Yeah, no, that's
those
just
modifiers
like
can be done
thing is-
narrator to narrator.
adding stuff like that can be done afterwards with expansion packs. That's I'm talking about the actual core rules, the mechanics of the game.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. Like, I would prefer to have more disabling characteristics, and I don't think that adding more would make the core game better. For example, just my logic. All right.
The Cogent Roleplay Discord server. I'll make sure that is linked to in any descriptions.
Hey guys, that's us.
But I think we should just get straight to it. How do you play?
We will,
Cogent
we will.
Roleplay?
But I just want to say, also, these core rules that we'll be going through are going to be free. They're freely
Yes,
available now. You can get them
that is
now.
important.
Okay.
Free. So basically, we're trying to create a system that is elegant and powerful and exciting, but also you can just start playing.
It's accessible
We're
for everyone.
developing an app and a website available on cogentroleplay.com. You can go there, check out the whole core rulebook. You can check out the cheat sheets. We're working on dynamic character sheets and really exciting stuff with our coder friends. So there's exciting stuff in the works, but the heart and soul of Cogent is simple, elegant, and amazing.
Yeah, and it's a core system to enable playing in any campaign setting, whatever you can imagine. Okay, it's made to be flexible and adaptive, and we're going to be going through those basics with you. So if you're thinking when people hear roleplay session, they think, oh, what's the setting? It's like anything you want.
Whatever. We've well and truly put it to the test, and we'd like you to do the same with us. And we're going to make it the best thing in the world. So, where do we start?
So, any thoughts so far?
I think Cogent's
Jazz
great.
saying best in the world quite a lot.
Pretty awesome.
They're making good points and doing
I
good.
definitely
like-
like it more than D&D.
I
Definitely.
like
Yeah,
blue.
I already like it more than D&D. D&D, it's
I like
so
the
fun.
blue.
I'll ask you guys to not tear down other systems. Disney, you have some background sound.
I'm just saying I prefer Cogent.
No, that's fine.
The
That's fine. I'm
advantages
just...
of having D&D is that it's established setting with a lot of lore.
no, that's Forgotten Realms. It's different. I'm talking about the
Yeah,
D&D is not
it was
Forgotten
me that
Realms.
was tearing down D&D. Sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
I just ask you guys to not tear other people's things down when we're discussing Cogent. You're just not productive, in my opinion.
They're both A tier.
All right. Let's.
Well,
the thing is, it
something
works.
I'd like to
it's
say.
it's pretty simple.
The only situation I have not seen yet that I want to be part of is someone actually do Cogent and a modern city roleplay that's not based on combat.
That is
Like,
interesting. I'm
Just like walks by a
What was
street,
the,
and you have to like
like,
roll for a
plot base?
pickpocket.
What would the
That's.
plot be? Like Watch Dogs?
I'm interested in what the goal of the players would be.
Just
The
be
goal
like
is
some
surviving.
pickpocketers
Overthrow
who gotta
the
like walk by a
government.
street and like roll for the pickpocket.
But that's still
You need to
combat.
get enough money to pay bills.
Yeah, still. Like,
It's soft
what would
combat,
not
but
be
it's still
combat?
combat.
Like whether or not you get to buy that cup of coffee. Like, do you have enough money or something? I don't know.
I'll Shaboy, I'll be
Well-
honest. The reason I don't think you've seen
Roll to
anyone
get
play that is
evicted.
because I don't think that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't sound interesting.
It's like if someone makes a setting like that, you could make a detective sort of thing with modern times, or you have to do clues and stuff. But that's like a
Maybe horror, but without combat.
maybe, like, yeah. But just
Like,
doing
change
When I say
everyday
without
things in a
combat,
city,
without focus on combat.
it's yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I think
Well,
it
the
I
main
see.
focus is roleplay, is what you mean.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
using
anyway.
Cogent to roleplay in general.
That's what they do with
The thing is,
Cogent
okay,
usually.
so I just want to go back to the video. They said that they want to make it very simple and easy to get into. I must say it was.
I completely agree. It's
I like
pretty
that
easy to
It
get
was
into.
very jarring to jump into the system. As someone that had no idea of what it was.
I had no
It
idea
took
either.
me-
I've got like half of it down. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's definitely more doable
I
than
haven't
like
even memorized
D&D.
like half of
It's
it.
yeah.
It took
it's
me like
D&D.
6 hours. I'd say it took me
Oh,
6 hours of actual gameplay, and then like 3 times reading the rules to actually get the hang of the game. But after that,
Same
it's
here.
more or less intuitive. It's just very jarring
Half
because
Mill was made by writers.
it is fundamentally different to other games of this genre
Yeah.
because it doesn't have hit points.
Yeah,
it-
so you get a bit of a culture shock there.
It's very
True.
hard for me to intuitively predict how much damage something does.
Yeah, Mutants and Masterminds had a similar system with the with injuries instead of hit points. But like yeah, mutants and masterminds also seem to sort of give people a shock. And I've heard that it's not as sort of satisfying to do it as just hit points are. But honestly, I don't care about that bit.
All right, let's continue.
Well, first of all, we'll briefly mention the structure or the purpose of Cogent is to encourage the narrative, the story that you're creating, and so that's
many
the core thing.
role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons lean more towards game than role-play. Cogent roleplay is very much role-play facilitated by gameplay mechanics.
And so one of the first things that you're going to notice when role-playing is done with Cogent and stuff is a thing called the Destiny roll. Now, Destiny roll is simply, I love it because for me as a game master, which we call a narrator, it solves a problem when I need to make a decision on something that could either result in something really good for the players or really bad.
Why don't you give me an example?
And to remove my bias in it, I can just say, well, I'll let the dice.
Let's set the scene. Let's do a microcosm role play. I am Gruff, the barbarian.
Get ready.
Gruff. So Gruff, you're about to venture forth.
To forth I go.
That's poor grammar, but I guess it works for your character. See, look, characterization
Dumb
already.
barbarian.
So there's a number of decisions that myself as a narrator need to make. What's the weather like? Okay. What's the conditions in which he is leaving? Is he well equipped? Is he going to run into something problematic along the way?
Now you can, as the narrator, just decide.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's fine.
But sometimes it's fun and simpler to be able to blame the dice.
Let the dice decide.
Oh my God!
Yes! So I got
Do you see what happened there? In that split second where Shad rolled a 1, I knew immediately something real bad is going to happen. He rolled it with an intent. He's rolling for something. What is the destiny of a confrontation he's going to have, an item he's going to find?
See, that's actually kind of interesting. I have yet to do this.
It's
only the
funny,
narrator
people
can
have
This
no
doesn't sound-
idea what rolling the
Hold on a
destiny
minute, hold
is
on.
yet, and they'll see that he just like raged over getting like a 1 and just not understand it at all.
No, I understand the
No,
system.
I'm pretty sure most people know what getting a 1 means.
This is just a random encounter, but instead of
yeah,
encountering an enemy, it's encountering a setting or
I
weather
don't-
or insert X.
Yeah, I don't think it's as special as they're trying to make it out to be because D&D has
it's
a bunch
not
of
a special.
tables
It's not a new
randomly
system
countered.
at all. But
Yeah.
I have read the rules on this part of the game, but I have yet to actually use it because my campaigns have been heavily scripted and railroaded because they are meant to be 2-shots and that's what they're going to be. So like I know what the setting is, but you know what? I think that's a good thing where they've added that already into the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, just have that option is a nice thing.
I feel like this is meant for like long sessions. I mean, not like long campaigns with many sessions.
Yeah. No,
All right.
A good example
want
is
this graph
in Blood Brothers for this.
Hmm.
There is a
Sorry,
lot
I
of
was-
good and bad rolls.
Sorry, by the way, I'm from Australia and we're all from different countries, so there's a bit of ping delay between people speaking. So if I unpause or pause,
okay.
my apologies.
basically rolling. I needed to make a decision on the weather. All right, and these are sometimes little details that you can forget. But something as simple, it seems simple, like the weather can impact the entire play session. I got a 1, and so
that would make up the whole camp, that whole episode.
everything that's going to happen is going to be framed now by the result of this roll.
I love
if
that.
it was summer, so I was thinking maybe springtime. Okay, so springtime. Monsoon, essentially, like it's a water storm with flooding, like you wouldn't believe.
It does bear mentioning that 1 and 20
Yeah.
are
So
like
they're
they
the
have a
extremes.
reputation for being the extreme. So if you roll a 1 or a 20, you can definitely get pretty crazy.
Yeah, for me, the difference between a 2 and 1 is far greater in what I narratively decide than the difference between a 3 and 2.
I just love that
a
we
1
rolled a
is
1.
special.
I just love that
special.
the first example we roll a 1. The
So-
destiny roll is a
Yeah,
fantastic
it's great.
mechanism to help the narrator make a decision, make up their mind, or come up with something pretty quick without having to do a lot of pre-planning. But it doesn't have to be leaned on. It can just be used as much as they would like. But it's really helpful, and it's sort of the glue that holds the system together in many ways.
Yeah, and it's such a useful tool. And players can even, sometimes elect to use the Destiny roll to determine if they're having trouble to determine what they think their character would choose in a given situation, stuff like that. Sometimes I say, I'm going to do a Destiny roll myself, and they'll do it to help determine that.
The other kind of role is much more about decision making.
Yes, it's the direct result of whenever a character wants to make an action of some kind.
For this, we use a D6, and we use it in a mechanism whereby a roll results in either a win or a loss. So if I roll and I just rolled and got a 2, that's a loss. 1, 2, and 3 is a loss. If I roll, please be a good example. There you go, I got a 6.
A win. Now,
4, 5, and 6 is a win.
Even though you might think a 6 is great, a 6 is just as good as a 4 in this system.
You could basically flip a coin, serves the same purpose for the...
That's wrong. You cannot flip
I
a coin.
don't think that's.
I have read
that
extensive
kinda didn't make
arguments
sense to
about
me.
this. You know what? I really like that they're using a D6 because now you can, like, with the Destiny point specifically, since they're talking about that, it's really nice how they did it. I like it that they give an advantage of 1 on a D6 because that's way more impactful than a D20 or a coin. A coin.
Like, use the dice. Don't just use a coin.
Yeah.
Yes, use the D6. It's good.
Yeah.
There's some bots on the server that
aesthetically pleasing.
have been really fun.
Finally, D6 gets love.
All right.
Another thing back with the Destiny dice. Yeah, I think with them putting it in the rules like that and sort of putting a lot of emphasis on it, I think that's a good thing because it's sort of like if another tabletop game sort of put a lot of emphasis on random tables for the game master, so that the game master knew that they could use a random table whenever they felt stuck.
Yeah,
like and I think it's a good idea to sort of to put that in in their face and sort of show them that they don't have to do it all on their own. Anyway, moving
All
on.
right, let's continue.
Most part. So how these are calculated is the more single D6s you have that you can roll all at once, the more statistical probability you have of being able to accomplish something more specialized or difficult.
Because you have a higher chance of rolling more wins, which is any dice that is 4 or higher.
So every person, NPC, character, whoever, the default roll is 3 D6.
The purpose of these D6s is to reach a set number of wins, which we call a challenge level. And so the challenge level system is what basically encapsulates most of the mechanics of the whole Cogent system and is what will help you determine the result of any given action a player wants to do.
Now, there's a handy little cheat sheet on the Cogent Roleplay website which shows you the statistic probability of the amount of dice you have rolling against the challenge level. So with 3 dice, the maximum thing I can do is achieve a specialized task if my roll is good.
Hang on. I have a question, Jazza. What's the specialized task?
Is a challenge level 3. Okay, so because I have 3 dice, I have the maximum probability, maximum chance of having 3 successful dice or 3 wins. So if I roll this, I've gotten 2 wins, which means a challenge level 2 I could accomplish, which is an uncommon task, and I have a 50% chance of achieving a challenge level 2 with 3 dice. But I have a 12% chance of achieving a challenge level 3. So how do you get more dice, Shad?
Well, it is on your character sheet, Jazza. But may I just quickly mention one small thing before we go there?
Go for it.
Sorry, Wolf, you were trying to say something?
I wasn't trying to say anything.
No, I think it was just that. Yeah, that was just static.
All right.
So
It's the
actually, wait a minute. They're sort of talking about what we were talking about earlier, and that's with the challenge level 3 and the sort of problem it poses, in that he has 3 dice, and he says the most he can accomplish as a specialized task, and
See,
I
you have to
guess.
get above a specialized task, which I don't like with especially the what's it called? Not proficiencies, vocations. vocations, because at least the skills are sort of balanced out with attributes because they get a bonus roll to it or whatever. Vocations don't have that. So unless you have
I
4
think they
in a
actually
vocation.
specify that you can choose like which
So
attribute
vocations
is
have
for
an
the thing.
attribute identified to them, depicted by
Yes,
the
but
narrator.
Yeah. For example,
like-
I don't know, a sorcerer would have intelligence, and a blacksmith would have strength.
no, I
I
understand that.
think
But
they actually explain this in the video later on.
no, I'm keeping that in mind. Yeah, I'm just saying it is very difficult for the players to, and specifically talking about new players, to identify when, like it's when it's worth it to do a check, or to do a not a check, to do a assist roll, because quite often, what in my experience, players are trying to do an assist roll because they're not sure if they are able to do it on their own, and then they roll like a vocation with like 2 attribute, like with an attribute and 2 skill points in it. So they roll 3d6 plus the base 3, and they still like get 3 or less average.
They actually have
and
a
it's
at least in the version of the rulebook they had before starting up again, they have a probability cheat sheet that sort of goes through like how many dice you're rolling and the CL and like what's the probability of like succeeding that CL. With 5 dice for specialized task, you have 50%. 5 dice, that would be about how many like sort
So
of
the
points in
issue is
skills?
to get any benefit out of it, you actually have to get 4 clear, at least.
yes, which I
Eh,
don't like that part of the system, but let's see if they address it. I feel like they're going to go over it. Like, I just want to give them the benefit of the doubt because I have not seen the video yet. I hope they go over this, or at least touch on it. I'm not going to speak on vocations until the end of the video if they don't speak on it.
The idea that we promote in Cogent Roleplay called narrative failure, okay, or narrative success. And so most rule systems function around a system of you can or you can't. So if Jazza was trying to climb up a wall and me as the narrator looks at like I know what the wall because I get to create it, so does it have handholds or was it whitewashed or is there rocky things, and so it might be somewhat difficult, but it's got enough handholds. I mean it seems uncommon, and just by me thinking in my head of what type of difficulty it is, okay, if it's uncommon or specialized, actually no specialized, so I feel it would be specialized.
Let's
right?
go specialized, right? I'm going to roll for this.
So
I'm going to roll for this.
But this
right?
is the translation of the narrative idea now translating so easily into the rules, because if it's specialized, then the rules already tell me what challenge level I apply. Challenge level 3.
So I'm a completely average person in this example. I have no attributes or skills, which, I mean, a lot of people, average is 0, right? So people get worried sometimes that they don't have loads of points to spend on characters in some situations, but 0 is average. We, for the most part, are 0. So I have no attributes and no skills. My base dice are 3d6, and I am attempting to climb this wall. I'm going to roll. I got nothing. Nothing. I got 3 losses in my attempt to climb the wall. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I just can't climb the wall.
Exactly, because it's kind of odd. There are some tasks that logically most people should be able to do.
With enough time.
Yeah, exactly. And to say you can't do it, doesn't make sense. Okay, so the idea about narrative success and failure in Cogent, instead of saying that Jazz's character simply was unable to reach the wall, like what if he was really inventive and he tried to prop up a tree branch and climb up on the tree? Like if anyone is thinks about it enough, generally they can achieve certain tasks. And to say you simply can't do it,
it doesn't necessarily mean that I can't climb the wall. What happens instead?
That's something, he gets a negative result in the structure of the narrative. So instead of saying you can't climb up the wall...
See, I really like this. This is the part of the system. Very good. That's very good, yes. Yeah. I've had this literally today where a player failed a skill check to dodge out of the way of an attack. It was just like a flame geyser. He was in the way of this flame attack. He tried to dodge. He failed to dodge. However, because he rolled barely not enough, I made it so that he got to safety and didn't take the full front of the attack. And also,
which
he got
is
a benefit.
why you use dice and not just like flipping a coin, because it's easier to say, yeah, he almost got it. So the narrator can say, yeah, sure, you can have at least not all hell go loose on you for
my point
not
was
You
that
dodge this. You dodge the flamethrower, but you sprain your ankle in the process or something like that.
yeah, sort of like
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Where it's like, oh, you lose 1 armor point, but you don't actually take any damage, so to speak. And it gives the narrator leeway for taking the dice as a key to as a clue of like, this is how you should think of about the situation, but they're not dictating exactly how much damage was done. Or for example, if you in D&D, you roll, you get some damage, you deal 5 damage. That's it. You, as a narrator, you cannot decide how much damage that does. Or like in Cogent, you actually can with this sort of system. Which I personally do like. Alright, let's continue.
Now, as the narrator, I would say you do climb up the wall, but you meet the guard who is just standing there waiting for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so he fails narratively, not fails physically. But this is the thing. Myself as a narrator, I have options to decide how much of a narrative failure it will be. But it would be kind of mean if I made it really bad. And it's kind of letting him off free if I don't make it bad enough. And so how do I determine how much of a failure it will be?
Oh, I don't know, you're holding a D20, you tell me.
Oh, all right, let's determine this.
Yes!
Whoa!
I got a 20! How are these the examples for... So, as a player, I know I didn't successfully climb the wall, but if the narrator wanted that little bit of help...
So this is really interesting, okay? I was actually hoping I'd get really low. Because in my mind I was thinking it would be really funny if, for the narrative failure of this action in the story, would be that as he's trying to climb the wall topples over. But I rolled the exact opposite, and it would have been pretty mean if I just chose that. But if I got the roll...
It's taken it out of your control. And as a player, that feels like my saving grace. I attempted something and failed, but destiny would have it that it was... Destiny was very in my favour in this situation. So how would you
Well,
tell
now,
that story?
I can still use that idea of the wall falling over because it's kind of fun as narrative, and I would only get to resort to it in an extreme, but this is definitely an extreme. But now, as a narrator, I'm going to structure it in a positive way. That, all right, as you're trying to climb the wall, it actually topples over, but falls into, and it would depend on what the character is trying to achieve. Like, just what do you think your character is trying to achieve?
I was trying to get to the other side to fight an opponent.
Fight an opponent? It could have fallen on the opponent. Or it could have like fallen into maybe a special shop that has equipment and gear and stuff.
Or perhaps triggered traps that might have been set for the player. There are any number of ways you can do it. It's very improvisational, and you can take away some of the pressure of that improvisation with the dice, but you can also play with them a bit.
Yeah, that's, you know what, I have actually not done that. That's interesting.
I think it's...
You didn't make a wall fall on someone yet?
No, I mean, I haven't...
Yeah, dude, you're totally missing out if you have not made a wall fall on someone. Like,
Dude,
it's
I
the
had a wall
best
fall
game
on me
mechanic.
the other day. Best experience of my life, let me tell you.
Great, I am just
More
so
than
happy
5
for
is a
you.
waste. Alright. God,
It-
no one gets that
random-
reference. I'm sorry.
So, the Dice of Destiny is like random tables, except better, honestly. Except more applicable and more improv based. If you want it to be.
Yeah, I am much more just improv because I'm pretty good at improv, or like, would this thing happen? But I didn't realize how heavily this game leaned into letting the narrator just roll a d20. Because as like, for a new narrator that doesn't have like an amazing imagination that can, or has experience of coming up with things on the spot, that's awesome. Like, I didn't realize how extensive this part of the system was. Any notes?
Well,
Disagreement. I didn't know
Just
it was
a little thing with dice that are used. Still, there is the percentage die for the random encounter tables, which may be used if you really are just making some kind of one shot and you really don't know what you want to have in it, or you just don't have plans for a session.
Yeah, Yeah, it's good for
I think
narrators that are either really tired or don't feel like coming up with things or struggle with coming up with things.
So
Yep.
I have an example
Yeah.
of
So
a
that's the-
situation.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 or 3 days ago, I was sitting in the Discord call with just one other community member, and I literally drew a small maze on my paper, and we did Cogent to a miniature maze that he couldn't see. And how I placed the only NPC in the entire 2-hour call was a D20.
Nice.
Yeah,
And
like the
Well,
D20,
mhm.
it's versatile. It can sometimes you don't need it. It's useful for different people. It's just generally based on, do you need it? What's currently needed? It's not this thing that
if
you're
I am
always
ever
going to
stuck,
use.
if I'm ever stuck as a DM, I can roll a d20 and get myself unstuck. I think that's a
Exactly.
really good
That is
system.
But what if
excellent.
when you roll the d20, you get yourself even more stuck?
Then you roll another d20.
Then you roll another D20.
Exactly.
No, I
Just
think,
roll a
I think,
d4,
I
it's
think
better.
getting into a bad situation, getting into a bad situation when you're stuck would actually get you unstuck a bit. It would sort
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
then you've got something to go off of. Getting
Yeah.
stuck means that you don't have anything to go off of, positive or negative. You just don't have anything to sort of face.
Mhm.
Getting a
Yeah.
bad thing, I wouldn't say that gets you stuck. I'd say that helps get you unstuck because then you have something to face at least.
Yeah,
Now you
I
have
completely agree with you. Okay, let's continue.
Core of how the Destiny role and the challenge level roles.
I
can
like
work
how we were able to show
together.
how they interact, because that's
Yeah,
cool.
it's pretty important.
But it also demonstrates the idea of a narrative success and a narrative failure. Because just saying you can't do something as a player, I hate that. I find it really unsatisfying.
And the best thing, and anyone who plays any system will vouch for and agree with, that the best thing about any role-playing game are the stories you leave with after. And that you remember for years and you tell as if they happened to you as a person yesterday. Seeing a 20 or seeing a 1 is the most crazy, fun, and exciting thing. I'm so glad we have those as experiences.
Seems like Destiny was on our side.
It's
to show the
amazing.
extremes.
So good.
I still remember the time when I was watching Eurums live, and I was there when they rolled 3 20s. They rolled 3 d20s and rolled 3 20s, and I literally stood up and just like stared at my screen for like 5 minutes in awe.
One time I watched a guy roll ones.
Nice.
Yeah, the thing is, yeah, I think they're, what they're saying. I would agree as well. Is that it seems that most people sort of prefer the wacky sort of moments, and stuff.
I
and
mean,
then
the
randomness,
wacky moments
like,
are the
really
moments
gets
that
ya.
make the game fun. If you don't really have
yeah.
any wacky or crazy moments, the game gets dull, Like, if you go completely by script, it's not as fun as if, like, randomly a meteor falls from the sky and hits you upside the head.
Alright, let's continue.
Okay, so how do I get
Also,
more...
you know what? I'm just gonna say this. I'm probably not gonna edit this video because it's already 50 minutes long.
Nice.
So, yeah,
It's pretty
alright.
short, though.
I'm probably just not gonna edit the video. I'm gonna. This is gonna be an EFAP stream essentially, but for
Absolutely.
Cogent.
EFAP Mini.
EFAP, yeah, it's an EFAP mini mini. Let's go.
Guys, I want to do more complex things. I want to be a more skilled character.
Have a higher chance of success in specific tasks that you want to train your character in. And so it doesn't take away the random element, but of course it'll help out. And this is where, of course, the character sheet comes in. And so it starts off with your physical abilities. Are you a strong person? Are you physically weak?
Or is your brain big?
Are you smart? Are you a smarts person?
We really wanted to condense it to what made the most sense with the simplest approach, and that came down to 3 core attributes. They are strength, reflex...
I'm going to say awesome! And intelligence.
You feel good?
I feel so good.
Okay. You can have as a
What an
character in
intelligent
most play sessions, and you can shape the system to however you want it to be. But we've constructed the foundation to allow you up to 2 points in any of those 3 attributes and to spend a maximum of 2 points.
Now, I could go and give you a whole big rant as to why we did it the way we did, but that would take, I could spend like 15 minutes, half an hour, and Jazza can testify that I can do that.
We're going to try and...
There's a lot of reason why we made it this way, but we don't have time to get into here.
It's quick and simple. And the way to further define your character comes later in skills. So basically the attributes is like the foundation of your character. If I'm a barbarian, I might default to either 1 point in strength and 1 point in reflex, or 2 points in strength.
So 2 points is the maximum for a non-superhuman person, okay? And they have a narrative description of 1 point means you are really well... So 0 means you're an average Joe, 1 point, you're really well trained, you're a specialist essentially, and 2 points is like... You're the cream of the crop, the top of what a regular human can get.
World class is the way we put it.
Yeah.
So an Olympian lifter might have 2 points in strength.
Exactly.
So to be a barbarian with 2 points in strength,
you're tough.
That's a strong barbarian.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To be a character with 2 points in intelligence is like physicist, like Stephen Hawking's level of intelligence, combined with some skills you might add.
And this is how simple it works, okay? There are some systems which bafflingly have an ability...
I'm just going to stop this, and I'm just going to say that I enjoyed what they did.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good too. Cause I spotted another thing, sort of benefit of it, I think, and that's in sort of other games. I'm not going to be naming any names, but when you have charisma and intelligence sort of separate, even then you don't tend to use either one like itself that much. So I think putting them together, because they do correlate pretty well IRL, putting them together means that you'll get more use out of the stat itself, which I think is
I'd argue they're still separated. I'd argue they're still separated, where you can have no points in intelligence and 4 points in charisma. So I'd argue that they're still somewhat separated.
Do you mean
they're
by like
separated but not completely removed?
Yes, they're separated but not removed. Which is a good approach. I think that's good. All right, let's continue.
Score and then give a separate bonus to the dice, and you have to remember 2 numbers and statistics to figure it out. Okay, 1 point, every single point actually on the character sheet simply represents 1 extra dice. It's that simple.
So
2 points in strength.
So if you're
Now Jazza would only add those 2 extra dice for the roll if
it's relevant.
Where it's relevant.
So we can discover how this plays out when we dive into the skills. The skills are divided into core skills, and then there are vocations and proficiencies. We'll get to those in a moment. The core skills are the things you'll be most familiar with in other role-playing systems. Things like being able to swim, ride or pilot, which we put into 1, so it counts for horse riding or X-wings, persuasion, infiltration. All of these are core skills, and there are 4 core skills paired with each attribute.
Yes.
So the strength core skills are athletics, grapple, swim, and aim/throw.
Yeah, and we don't need to go over more, but that's just an example.
Go to the website, CogentRoleplay.com.
They're categorized properly. Like a skill that's founded on strength, obviously, is a strength skill. Now, the thing is, this is how simple it is, okay? If you have a point in say, athletics, that point represents an additional dice you add to your roll. That simple. It's like no numbers.
If we apply it to the attributes as well, because they're always combined, athletics is a subsidiary skill of strength. And if I go back to my barbarian example, an athletics roll...
Can you put the dice in so we can see it? So you got a base of 3, right here.
An athletics roll entails the base of 3 dice, my 2 points of strength, because athletics is a subset of strength, and let's say I have 1 point in athletics. So my barbarian's roll for an athletics check, which is where I'm trying to achieve something athletic and I have a challenge level assigned to that attempt, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dice. That's how much I can roll with a maximum ability to achieve an unrealistic feat of athletic strength.
What's that word you like? The statistical probability. 3 plus the points you have in whatever thing, your abilities and your skills, that's your roll. And if your challenge level is 4, Jazza, do the roll. It needs to be a challenge level 4.
So an athletics check, I'm going to want to charge up to an opponent.
No, I reckon lifting something. You're wanting to lift a
door, a heavy steel door.
Doors don't lift; they open.
A lifty one does, and I'm lifting it.
He's trying to lift a lifty door.
So one thing to clarify here is the narrator should nearly always assign the challenge level before the roll, so the player knows what they're up against. I want to lift this big, heavy...
I guess I do that as a narrator, but I don't tell the players half the time.
That's fair.
I mean, I'm
Let
more
them
stumped
guess.
about why he didn't say to throw the wall at somebody. I mean, come on.
You know what? That's a very good point. I'm very disappointed.
Comedy, like, geez, wasted opportunity.
You see the
Put the wall more.
You see this T-shirt. This is the T is actually the wall, and then there are two people on either side of it trying to topple it on top of each other. We've solved it. Let's go.
It's not a table.
Lifty door,
it's not,
narrator.
it's
What's the challenge level?
Now, challenge level is 4. That means there is an absolute possibility that Jazza's character can lift this door, which means his character possesses the strength to lift it. And then to say that he can't lift it, when there is the reality and possibility he can, it's like, what? Did he wake up one day and not have the strength?
Cut to the chase there, Shad. What are you trying to say?
It's that it doesn't make sense if the failure simply says you can't do it when you literally have the possibility to do it because you can lift it.
Well, let's see what happens.
This is why
Let's see if we get an example in context. So I'm going to attempt this. I actually have a 34% chance to succeed. I know this because of the cheat sheet available at CogentRoleplay.com. Makes it super simple. I'm going to roll, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I achieved opening the door. But
it's more interesting in this scenario if we say he failed.
Let's say I rolled 3, so I did not succeed that
Okay,
attempt.
so does that mean I should say that you simply can't lift the door? That doesn't make sense because
What would you do? What would you say?
Narrative failure, Jazza. Any number of things.
Do it.
So, well, look, if I really, you can say sometimes you don't do it, but you need to justify it gets jammed. It could it could have been jammed, something like that.
Doesn't have to
but
be.
this is this is not. But that's far more satisfying than saying you don't have the strength to lift it. When in reality, because you had the possibility to lift it, you do have the strength. So you need to come up with a more satisfying way. But then you can do a narrative thing. You do lift it, and something interesting is on the other side, something detrimental to the character.
Or I'm trying to lift it by the only handle that's visible, and I'm very strong, but it's
breaks the
rusty
handle off.
and the handle breaks off. Let's say I want to have a skill in something that is not outlined in the core skills. Say, for example, being a blacksmith. There is no skill in the core skills of being a blacksmith, but I should be able to have that skill.
If you want to make a horseshoe or indeed a sword or something like that.
What do we do?
Well, that seems like a job or a vocation of some kind. Indeed, if a character wanted, they could have spent time in such a pursuit and gained skills
in a vocation. So the way vocations work, think of it as the job of the character, or it's almost like a class.
Yeah, this kind of fills the character class component of Cogent.
So you could have the vocation of assassin or bandit.
But you know what I love about this?
What?
You get to pick whatever you can. Like if it logically makes sense that this was something like a
and if
thing,
the narrator agrees.
Yeah, the narrator needs to agree, of course.
Another thing that is worth mentioning is that the narrator should agree, but the player can propose which core attribute the vocation is based on. So a blacksmith, for example, might have suggested from the player, I'm going to be a blacksmith. I want the core vocation to be strength because I'm hitting a hammer all day. That makes a lot of sense.
It makes sense, but you know what I also like about this? It gives more freedom to the player. What if you were the type of blacksmith who created art pieces and it wasn't heavy lifting all the time, but really delicate work? Well, guess what? The core attribute can be intelligence now.
As long as the narrator agrees. But the next thing is what we call proficiency, which is different to core skills and vocations in that they're specifically for combat.
Yeah, I kind of forgot.
Now, this doesn't mean to say that you can't be helped out in combat if you have a skill that would logically assist you.
To be fair, none of the players ever asked me to assign an attribute, so I never did.
Uh-oh. I'd say it would be depending on what action you're doing. You would assign.
Guys, you're all talking at the same time. I cannot hear anyone. Let's
That's the best way to talk.
So, like, in my case, no one's ever actually asked me to assign them an attribute
Did
point.
you ask anyone if they want it?
No, because I missed that rule. Yeah,
So-
okay.
Nice.
Does that mean they are missing out on a die roll when they're using their vocations?
Sometimes, yes. But I'd also say that it still doesn't... It makes vocations a bit stronger, but it's still not good enough for assist rolls. My problems with assist rolls, not vocations anymore.
In
Because I
that realm.
misunderstood.
But when it comes to combat, there are set things that you would train in to do, and this would include types of magic. Okay, now you could have the vocation wizard. Okay, but then you could have the proficiency fireball or fire or something like that. Now this is something that can be applied to combat. Here's
an example. Let's go back to it. Let's keep on our blacksmith, right? I am proficient with a hammer. Which I can use in combat, I would think. So let's say I have a couple of hammer proficiency points, which is my weapon. Are we going to talk about assists?
Well, yeah. So I mentioned that you can assist if you have other skills that obviously logically would help, and
I'm a blacksmith, and I'm fighting someone who's wearing armor, and I can justify or propose to the narrator while I'm fighting. Do you know? I know where the weak points on where his armor are because I've forged 100 of them myself.
See, that's the thing. If you have like a 1 point in blacksmith and you try to do that assist check, you're gonna get screwed as the player. That's my problem.
I want to assist my combat roll with my vocation, which essentially means it's a separate challenge level, separate to the combat that can either enhance or diminish your ability to fight or accomplish
because
something.
this is interesting. To think that when you're trying something like this, to say that it's always going to be beneficial and help you out, seems a bit arbitrary and unrealistic, because what if that was more detrimental? It's like, I think I know where all the weak points in armor is, so I'm going to focus on that. What if that the person who made the armor actually reinforced those parts knowing it was the weak points and stuff? And so this is why an assist isn't just a flat bonus, okay? When you say you want to assist, there's a chance of randomness that it could backfire, but it could benefit you as well.
Yeah.
And so this is a simple assist roll, and guess what? It works on the exact same mechanic. It isn't complex. So
let's do it.
Assist roll has a challenge. It's a challenge level of 3.
Yeah. So I have my base of 3 dice, my 2 points in strength.
Have you put
and
I want to see.
my base of 3 dice, my 2 points in strength, and I'm going to say I have 2 points in my blacksmith vocation.
Yep.
I want to assist my attack roll with my blacksmithing vocation. I ask the narrator, he says it's fine with the way that I've proposed it might work. So the challenge level 3 for the assist, I roll and get 1, 2 successes, which means
so this is
my attempt.
You had a high chance of success, but you still failed.
And my attempt at doing something aided by my blacksmithing skill actually backfired, and maybe the part I aimed at was more reinforced than I expected.
Or myself as a narrator, I would say, all right.
Okay, after rereading the rules, because I had them pulled up as people were watching this, okay, vocations can have attributes applied to them. Sure, that makes them on par with skills. Great. It's still very, very likely that these players are going to get a negative outcome. Like, more than 50% of the time, they're going to get a negative outcome with 1 or 2 skill points.
Yeah, because if we looked at the probability sheet that they have, that they actually said they had earlier in the video, it's like here.
And the thing is, I understand they're taking a risk, and I understand that if you want to have it so that if you're taking a risk, there's a higher chance of there being a negative outcome. What I'm saying is that it narratively does not make sense. If you are a thief and you've done it for an extended amount of time, and you have a bit of experience, you should not be punished for it.
Yeah. Okay, well, here's a solution. I don't know if it would work, but like, what if, because the main problem seems to be if you only have 1 point in it, why not say that, like, the first point gives you 2 dice, but when you put in that second point, you now only have, like, an extra 3rd dice instead of an extra 4th dice. So it goes up by 2 the first one, and then just by 1 the second, by 1 the third, etc.
That could also be done.
Okay. Well, there are
many solutions to this. I'm just saying that that's a very real case where I don't think that the rules are really narratively
secure.
Yes.
If
they fix that, I don't see a flaw that I can remember with the Cogent system. All right, let's continue.
Well,
As you're trying to focus in on the weak points in armor, you got distracted by it. You were focusing on the weak points in armor, and you didn't pay attention you weren't paying attention to the sword swinging at your head. So there we go.
So now let's go into the combat roll that I was trying to assist, which is the way a combat roll is made up of is your base of 3 dice, every attribute point, because when you're in combat, whether you're smart or fast or strong, you should
It benefits combat.
Yeah.
Like, it baffled me that you couldn't, like, intelligence is a why do you think I'm holding a sword? I like swords, okay? I practice with them. And being smart, fighting...
He's holding it like a baby. You know what? That's beautiful.
The entire video, I was looking at the handle the entire video. I'm looking at this handle, trying to figure out how I can make a 3D modeled sword look that good, and I'm just waiting for him to just unsheath it at some point in time, and I don't think he does it the entire video, and it's very annoying.
My friend.
What if it's
my friend.
What if it's a short sword instead of a long sword?
What if
it's just a big dagger?
All right, let's continue. We haven't reached the bold yet.
Theories as to why you're holding a sword?
Yeah.
Some of them Freudian, but we'll get to that another time.
3, 2.
You want to know why I'm holding a sword?
Beautiful.
He did it.
Whoa!
Oh
my god! It's magnificent.
He's pointing at you, Shaboy. He's pointing specifically at you.
Oh my gosh! I just know it. I cannot believe. Wow.
I am
Hold
speechless.
on. This is
shining.
amazing. We
my
got this
God.
on recording and everything.
Yeah.
Wow! What a
Monumental
magnificent
moment
sword.
in history.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
See,
Okay,
we got that.
let's continue.
Even got diamond.
Well,
feet.
this is the real reason
The
why
foam sword, you really do? Is that what you do? You're intimidating me with your foam sword? I'm so scared.
I can still hurt you.
I'm real scared.
Will you let me hit you as hard as I can and see? We'll see how
I
dangerous
won't,
foam
Shad.
swords are. Yeah. Okay, so
Combat roll. Base 3d6. All of my
Oh, it's
attribute
foam.
points, and then all of my points in the proficiency of the weapon I'm using.
it makes sense that if you're smart, you could use that in a beneficial way into combat, which is why you can still add points in intelligence. So yeah, I'm just ending off that, and I like that. It makes sense. That's why we added it.
Great. Let's say I have 2 points in a
that's
hammer
fine.
proficiency, and let's say the hammer is a medium weapon, and there are also weapon bonuses and all that stuff that are in the rulebook that you can check out. Is there a bonus or negative or anything for the weapon of a hammer?
And you can look it up in the rulebook. It's pretty simple, but it just determines
even-
if the weapon adds a bonus and the context. It's
Even
all there.
simpler, the cheat sheet is
we go.
my happy place, medium weapon plus 1d6.
Done.
Super
Simple.
simple. So I get 1 extra dice because of the hammer itself. This is now my combat roll. The only difference is, whatever roll I get, I have to remove 1 win because my assist roll sucked. So now I'm going to roll my combat roll, and my resulting roll is 1, 2, 3, 4 against whatever my opponent's roll was. But actually, it's now 3.
Yes,
effectively.
Because we have kind of jumped the gun, but it still fits through into it. Because so far, we've been talking about challenge levels, we've always been referring to it in the context of against a static challenge level.
So we've classified roles into 3 categories. The first that we talked about, like in climbing a wall, is where you're trying to attempt something that is not resisted in any way.
It just has a static difficulty.
Trying to lift
beat.
something, trying to climb or jump over a gap, all of that is just a task. Trying to forge a thing, you get the idea. Next, we have what we call a passive conflict. That is where you are acting against something that has the ability to resist but is not aware or
just
currently
simply temporarily isn't doing it.
The simplest way to classify passive conflicts in general is where you have, let's say for example, you're sneaking against someone who might perceive you. You're lying to someone who might perceive, using the perception skill, that you're lying to them. You might be trying to persuade them. These are all passive conflicts. So shall we give an example of a passive conflict?
I don't know, it seems like you were describing active conflicts then.
No. Lying, sneaking up behind a guy. It's all versus perception, Shad. We wrote the rules. You should remember. Come on.
It's been 4 years, Joseph.
So, you are perceiving...
Good thing I've got a cheat sheet to look it up.
I am persuading you that I know how the rules work. Let's see if you can clue onto it. This is a great example. What's your perception roll in this example?
Okay, so perception is an interesting thing because out of all the skills, it's used the most because it's just
Yep.
It's so reactive, so common. It's what you notice. Okay, like how many times do you look at things versus how many times
What's
do
your
you
perception
need
roll?
But anyway, so it would be 3 plus my attribute. So if I had 1 in strength or 1 in intelligence, I get to add them both. Again, it's explained in the rule books why any ability adds to perception. And then if I actually train myself to be more perceptive, it's usually good to at least have 1 generally. So yeah, I'll do that. That'll be my.
So that's your roll against mine, but I'm going to try and persuade you first. So with a base of 3 dice, my let's say I have 1 point in intelligence. I'm going to grant myself that. And let's say I'm very persuasive.
He's the one laughing at it,
I'm
not me.
extremely persuasive with 3 points in persuasion. So this is my persuasion roll, and I got 2 wins. Now that is your challenge level to beat or lose against to see if I successfully persuaded you. 2. Stalemate. What happens now? Let's check the rule book.
And I'm going to.
If dice rolls are equal, it's all in here, guys. It's in the cheat sheet.
I think fell off.
Shad's mic fell off. I'm not editing this. You can deal with it yourself. If the dice rolls are equal, the passive is the victor, the one using perception. So
so that's the difference between.
I did not persuade Shad that I know the rules better than him.
See,
that's why I made a cheat sheet. But the final version, an active conflict is one person's action against another person's action. They are in direct conflict, and the most common way this happens is in combat.
And they're aware and they're trying to resist, because if Jazz is trying to persuade me and I have no stake in the matter where I want to believe him or not believe him,
you're passive.
It's passive. But now I actively want him to not succeed.
We're fighting. You have a foam sword and I'm a martial artist. This seems pretty accurate.
Me with foam sword, I still think it's in my favour still.
When we get into combat, it's worth mentioning how turns work. Often in systems like Dungeons & Dragons, people find out who is the fastest and the fastest person goes first. Actually, the way we do it in Cogent roleplay is the fastest person declares last. So the slowest person says what they're doing first, so that the fastest person at the very end of everyone saying what they're doing gets to choose how to react to everyone else's choices, because they're the most reactive, and then act first.
Yeah, and so what that means is the fastest person, say who has the highest reflex, they essentially, the round is structured to happen at the same time. And so just because someone's declaring what they're doing first doesn't mean they're moving first. They're just saying this was their intent, and therefore, because the person with the highest, who's actually the fastest, declares last, yeah, they get to respond because they're faster and they're noticing and they're seeing what people are going to be trying to do. They're able to preemptively react to it because, oh, he's going to jump on that table. I can see that.
Bruce Lee 2 points of reflex sort of thing. They're doing this and I'm just going to be there when they're doing it. So that's how the declaration phase and then the action phase roll out. But let's say you have 2 characters like Shad and me. Let's pretend we're characters. And
I think this is really good.
Yeah, I dislike sort of the way it is done in sort of other systems where everybody it's just sort of just random, and you add your bonuses, but your bonuses really don't do much. So I like it being more sort of.
Well, what if you can predict the future?
That
could be
actually
a
really
divination, for example, or maybe there is a guy who made a few potions, and there is a haste potion that basically will act like you have 1 more reflex. So that could be used like that, but I'd say with a divination roll, if you made that before combat, you could probably use that to basically jump up with
jump your reflex.
Yeah.
I do wonder if Chaz is gonna watch, or Shad's gonna watch this video.
I don't know.
I highly doubt it. And that is unless you post it in Cogent content. Then
I am
maybe there's
100% posting this in Cogent content. Are you kidding me?
Okay, well, hi all Cogent content mortals. I am above you for whatever reason.
I mean, you're above most people on the server.
I am. In fact, the only person in this call that is above me would be Tree Man. or as he may be seen, Maokai.
Yeah, okay, well, let's leave the tea drinking party aside and continue with the video.
Someone say it!
We are characters.
We are tea.
Shad likes swords.
I do.
Stop touching your mic.
I feel it's coming off. You gave me bad
It is,
tape.
I can see it's there.
You're giving me bad tape, Jazza.
All right, bear with us. Pull your tape off.
Look at that, it's got my hair on, I've got my chest hair.
I think that's going to be a
So in the
gift.
situation where two characters have equal reflex, let's say it's Shad and myself, they simply roll off until there is someone who wins, and whoever wins, whoever has the highest roll with 1d6, go for it. I rolled a 1, I rolled a 2, you rolled a 1. So I gain priority in this round of combat, or in this combat encounter, I
Yeah,
should
this
say.
is the only time when players roll off to get initiative
So at
priority.
the start of
essentially.
combat, my being more reflexive is going to count for the entire interaction. So because I am more quick to react than you, you're going to have to
See, for the very first game, and only for the very first game, I accidentally tried doing it for every round of combat. It makes things slow. Don't-
Yeah.
What's
Hold
on, you did what?
I made them roll initiative for
Exactly.
every round of combat, and it just made things slow.
You
made them
had
roll
Oh.
for every round.
Yeah, no. It turned a session that was meant to be an hour and a half into 2 hours and a half. I can see why they do it once per encounter. Like those eyes right here. Those eyes like those are the eyes of someone that's seen the fury of trying to do it every round. Like, it's not
So you
fun.
just do it the first round and then
Yeah.
repeat.
Just do what the rulebook says here. It's I know why it's written like that. The rules are written in blood.
And here's Mr. Foam Sword.
Say Jazza and my character were sitting in an inn, the classic inn setting, having a drink, and we had a disagreement. We're getting into combat now, and so I had my drink here, and I want to throw my drink in Jazza's face at the same time as drawing my sword and striking. Now, this is an action that you can do together, and so it doesn't make sense that one action should supersede the other and you can't do both. But now I'm trying to throw a drink in Jazza's face to stun him, get him, and so I'm going to say, if I succeed in this, and I'll probably take a separate roll just to see if I succeed, would I get a benefit in the combat? And as the narrator, I'll probably say, yeah, you can attempt it. Now, this is interesting though. I'm declaring this is my intent, so before I roll anything,
I know exactly what it's going to do.
Jazz's character is seeing my character reach for the mug, and he's been out because he's faster, he's got the reflex in this round, he knows I'm going to attempt it. What are you going to do to try and defend it? I'm going to try and throw my drink in Jazz's face while I'm drawing my sword and attacking in the same motion. Now that's my declaration. This is what I'm declaring.
You've declared that, and because you're slower in this encounter, I notice and get to react.
And how are you going to react, Jazz?
I am going to stand up and kick the table out from under me, under both of us, essentially towards you, essentially attacking you with the table and throwing off your reach towards the drink. So I'm trying to throw off both your attack and your drink grab and attack you in return.
Okay, so we've made Cogent purposefully to give the narrator essentially even more than one way, because you think, is there a rule of kicking over table while supposed to be a mug? So there's not one specifically, but there are rules that enable this to play out, and the narrator can choose which one he feels suits it
There
best.
are logical paths we've sort of established that people can use.
And so
what are some logical paths?
So for this sort of thing, just as me going from a Euros background, this sort of thing, because I am not experienced with the rules just yet, and in this sort of scenario, as I think they're addressing, this is an improv thing. I resort to 5 or below being a low roll, 6 to 14 being a success, and then 15 and up being a high roll. And like low roll means it's bad for the player, the high rolls means it's good for the player, like especially. Like give them a bonus or something. And then 1 and 20 are criticals, of course. But if you're ever stuck, it's just a good fallback tool to stand on, in like from my experience as well. It's like, I'm not sure if you're able to, or like how much like, I'm not sure if your attack should transfer into that table. For example, in this scenario, I'd roll a d20 to see if, like, that was successful narratively.
I would use that for NPCs if they're fighting somewhere else, and it would be for determining how well they do in combat.
Yeah, okay.
Parts you might, as a narrator, use to unfold this scenario.
Okay, so the throwing the mug in the face thing could be there to determine a situational bonus, so it could be considered an assist. Okay, but that's only if it ends up
Which would
throwing
be
water.
an assist with the skill, I'm assuming, of aim/throw. So you would roll an assist with that and then have your combat roll with your proficiency, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I could try and propose it to Jazza that I don't want him to. I want to succeed in getting this away, but I don't want him to look at the mug, and so I want to try and do a sleight of hand, block it with my sword, and use deception. Do you reckon I can get away with a deception? Throw
Maybe.
water in face, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. You could. That to me is logically applicable.
You see?
So,
now if Jazza was the narrator and he said, no, I don't think that makes sense, even if I myself
the
is the
narrator
player...
is the boss.
You
don't
argue.
take it,
Yeah, don't
move
argue.
forward, be productive.
That's wrong. Argue with the narrator, but if the narrator stands his ground, then don't argue further. Like, present your case, argue for your case, and then if the narrator says no, then don't make a fuss about it.
Yeah,
And he says you can't fly,
especially
but
if you have
you're-
a good narrator, just like listen to the narrator, but also like don't just think, oh, narrator is God. Just, you know,
Narrator
argue a little
is
bit,
human.
but,
Narrator is okay. So you know how you as a human being are pretty dumb. The narrator is also human. Let them. They make mistakes sometimes.
I think they are kind of saying what you're saying, which is that you can make your case, but like the narrator has final say, and you shouldn't argue. With
yes,
them
but
further after
they
you've
are
already made your case.
simultaneously. They are contradicting themselves a bit.
Yes,
because Jazza just said.
Is the player?
the boss.
He,
You're
don't
gonna
argue.
take it.
I don't like what I'm saying against what Jazza just said there, specifically.
Yeah,
All right.
don't
Move
argue.
forward, be productive.
Oh, Shaboy?
on that note, though, I need to go eat lunch. So goodbye.
Bye, man.
And good luck.
Happy
and,
lunch
like the video.
giving.
Bye, man.
Bye.
We're gonna have another
Farewell.
probably
Yeah,
half an hour to
also,
discuss the last 10 minutes.
Okay. We'll
Um,
drink tea. And,
well, it's gonna be uploaded to Cogent content in a minute.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
bye, man.
drink tea. Goodbye.
Have fun.
Good leaf.
Perfectly fine.
So roll your deception. I as the narrator say, okay, fair enough. You're trying to throw me off.
So if I have 3 and say I got 1 in intelligence and 2 in deception, okay,
That's your roll.
That's my roll.
Your assist, challenge level 3, you don't get any points in assist because
Yeah.
you rolled 3.
Yeah.
So your assist was unsuccessful in the sense that it affected me. The drink might
drink
have
could
hit
have-
the player,
But he could be
didn't-
used to having mugs thrown in his face from girls rejecting him his advances. Too close to home there, Jazz?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
All right, combat. How's
Yeah,
the combat?
physically
I
bad.
touched on very
But
briefly
Hang on,
for a
did
second.
you succeed?
Sorry.
Give the man some tea so he feels better.
Yeah. Look, his face actually just got more red. I'm sorry, Jazza.
Yeah.
Been kicking over the table though.
Well, that's my combat attack.
I mean,
I'm attacking you with the table.
You're attacking me with
I'm
the table.
kicking the table at you.
That is going to be an interesting attack thing because it's a good example because you would structure your combat roll differently as a result. So let's structure our combat rolls.
All right.
And
Oh, by the way, with the example of where I gave before, if the player got a low roll, I'd say they wouldn't get a combat benefit with the table. If they got a success, I'd give them a +1. If they got a high roll, I'd give them a +2. So,
I think this exactly happened in Blood Brothers, where Rob just rolled for an NPC with like an assisting for Kata, and I think he rolled like 18, so Kata got like +2 or +1. to
yeah,
combat
exactly. So, for example, if he got if he got like a 10, I'd make it that the table would have the same benefit as a sword, like strength level, and if it's higher, then it's higher. I just want to make a clear example of how it would be applied in the situation.
so base of 3. There, I have 1 point in strength and 1 point in intelligence. I've already, if I did the assist, I've already used up my assist. I can't try and assist it with any other vocation, stuff like that. And so then, if I have a proficiency in the weapon, obviously I would. I'm using a sword, and I would have 2, of course.
All right.
And
so
then
that's your combat roll.
But I'm using a sword. What's the bonus for a sword?
+1.
I'm using it to the weapon.
He's using a big sword. Fine, +2.
Right
So
here,
that's your
right
combat
here.
roll. That's your
my
combat roll. Now my roll is technically an attack, but it's not one that's going to injure him, and it's sort of defensive. I'm reacting to what he's doing. So my roll would be my base of 3 plus my 2 attributes plus, I'm going to say this is a kick. So I don't get any points from my proficiency, but I won't take the -1 for unarmed combat because I'm wearing steel cap boots. So my combat roll is technically 5, but because I'm acting defensively, I, as a modifier, can have +2 to my roll.
But you won't get a victory level against me if you're fighting defensively.
No, I won't be able to injure you. So I can use this kick if I succeed
to trip me,
throw you off balance.
I think he's using bolster, which is +2 wins.
To stagger you, to unarm you if I have a really good roll.
So these are just the kind of specific details that we mentioned in the rulebook that, look, that doesn't change the core system. Because remember, look at it, it's all running on the same system of just the base 3,
So
my
combat action, this is my roll. I cannot injure you, but if I achieve a victory level over you, I can stagger you. Or
if I was narrating this scenario and Jazza would say to do this, myself as a narrator, I would require him to try and make a roll to see if he can successfully just kick the table, because it's a weird thing to do. It's not something you're trained in, and so I would think that there's an added measure of difficulty.
You like adding the substance and complexity. I would just say you kick the table. This is how it goes.
See, this is like 3 different narratives. Jazza would just say kick the table. Shad would say roll to kick the table. I would say roll to see how much extra damage you would get as the table being the weapon. So, yeah, it's
to see
just
how
interesting.
far the table flies.
Yeah,
Where is
It comes
Depends on the narrator.
yeah.
Do they roll for damage later?
No, I'm just saying. Sorry, what did you say?
Well, you said how much extra damage, but is damage rolled like that?
Oh no, I mean, I would give him an extra die to throw. Right now, like right now he's going to throw. I'd give him an extra 1 or 2, depending on a roll to decide how much damage the weapon would do extra.
What victory level he gets?
No, I mean, not wins. I mean, I'd give Jazza an extra 1d6 to his roll.
You keep using the word damage, like at the end, like you're saying for how much damage.
Oh,
deals,
I'm sorry.
so how much what his victory level is.
Yes, I'm when I say damage, I mean extra 1d6 to his roll.
Because this is the contest, right? They're still like challenging each other.
Yes. So right now they're gonna have a roll of, and Jazza's gonna roll like 7d6, and Shad's gonna roll like 8d6. I think I could be wrong.
May I just say something? He said that you can't do an injury level, but you actually can't make a victory with a defense roll. I have the rule pulled up right now.
Could you repeat
Which means you can't trip someone, you can't stagger them, you can't do anything. You just are purely defending.
You know what? You know what I'm gonna say to that? Shad was correct. He does. I mean, Jazza was correct in him not knowing the rules better than Shad.
It's very much everyone's flavour. So I am kicking. This is my combat roll, and I rolled 3 successful dice, or 3 wins. What is your combat roll, Shad? Oh! 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
I smashed it.
You then have achieved a level 3 victory. So the way combat works is after each round, the amount that your combat roll succeeds entails the victory level that person gets to decide.
And there's a simple real
Was that
thing.
a jump cut? That's so weird. They keep doing these jump cuts, but I'm not sure if they're jump cutting or if it's just me noticing it. It's something weird.
Succeeds entails the victory level.
Yeah, see that was a jump cut.
Jump cut.
Oh my god. It just makes it look He feels really weird.
Not natural.
This was very sloppily edited on purpose. Like they probably spent 20 minutes just going through, finding where they need to cut stuff
Jazza
out.
probably edited.
They probably swore and put some really bad words in there, and they try to make it family friendly.
Well, that person gets to decide.
And there's a simple real thing to encapsulate additional players or NPCs. If there was another player NPC trying to do something in that round, they would have a combat roll, whatever it was based on, whatever they were trying to do, and that would apply against my roll, okay, if they were attacking me. If they're attacking me, my combat roll still applies to them, and I could still get a victory level against them because I was trying to defend myself. Or if they were attacking Jazza and because he got a low, they could also successfully have hit him as well. Your combat roll doesn't represent one single attack. It represents your quality of actions in that space of time with whatever tool you're using that is applied to whatever thing is assailing you in that time frame.
So with a level 3 victory, and it's all here on the cheat sheet and in the rulebook, you can choose to either inflict a minor, medium, or serious injury, or you can stagger, disarm, or trip me.
See, I would choose trip because if our characters were drinking, well, probably depending on the offence, I might not want to kill him, and so.
And the modifier for being tripped might make me lying down or prone, and this is in the modifiers, which would give me minus 4d6. Wounding me, if let's say we're not like trying to kill each other, but inflicting a serious injury is minus 3d6 to all of my dice checks until I've recovered, right? But if you're just trying to teach me who's boss, 4d6 while I'm prone it enables you to essentially step on my chest and point your sword at me and say,
"Don't ever say that about my."
Quick question: does anyone here know if the narrator or the player gets to choose?
Gets to choose.
The player.
Choose what?
It is player with acceptance of the narrator.
Alright, so the player would choose with the substance from the narrator. That makes sense, okay.
Mother. She's my mother too, I could say.
I like that. I'll do it that way as well.
I mean, she's my mother too, I can say whatever the hell I think that covers all the basics.
It really does.
Now, as you can see, I feel like we got a little bit messy there in the combat round, in particular because we started to veer towards our narration styles of play styles.
And we were bringing in the other tangential elements that are there to add flavour and realism, okay?
Yeah, I think those are
but
for the
what
better.
you'll have noticed is that the core mechanic didn't change, okay? Every point or addition adds just an additional dice, okay? So the calculation is really simple. And we were going slow to show it to you. When you actually remember what your role is based on what you're doing, combat flows so quickly in the rounds.
You get used
and the
to
result is
how
really
your
well.
character acts, you get to be in character, and your priority gets to become telling a story rather than doing calculations for armor class or to figure out what the vulnerabilities of a person's statistical is.
But also, can I just point something out? There was a lot of complex actions that actually happened in that combat round. Trying to throw a mug, trying to kick a table, trying everything like that, and it resulted in me tripping my opponent, and it was done with a single roll from each of us. In comparison, okay, there are certain, rule systems where you would need to roll for initiative, you would need to then roll for attack. If you get a critical hit, you'll need a roll to see if you succeed the critical hit. If you were trying to do something else like a trip, you need to declare that beforehand. You can't, and then you need to roll for damage. And so that was like between 4 and 5 rolls to achieve something. So when I say that combat,
and on top of that, it actually, like when you describe it that way, there's less control over a player's choice. Whereas really when you have a great role as your character, you should be able to choose how to harness that competence into achieving what you want. And that really is what the role-playing experience is all about. Telling stories in character and trying to achieve certain things. Things will go in your favour, they will go against you. Even dying can be fun.
Oh yeah.
It's all telling a good story.
We have purposely constructed Cogent to try and address some of the limitations that we have found, and I think it works really well.
And I think this is a great place to wrap it up, to simply say that tabletop gaming, there's lots of flavours of it, and whatever the flavour you enjoy, that is the right flavour. But Cogent Roleplay is intended to be the most community-centric and versatile system ever. And you will not find another roleplay system with its creators being so listening to your feedback, excited to hear and see your experiences using the system and applying that in the best ways possible to suit everyone as best as possible.
And when you're saying community-driven stuff like that, I also want to add in accessible. Okay, this core system is free and it's adaptive to be able to fit fit to any setting you want, okay? And one of the reasons is that we're doing it because we want to make a great system. That's always been our intention. We're not making it as a money-making scheme.
Cogent Roleplay will always be centered around providing you the best storytelling mechanism possible. We're going to further refine it and balance it over time, and there will be things that change, but the core of what we've shared with you here today and the simplistic approach that we're trying to create is really the focus.
We've been able to avoid limitations that sometimes creep in when people are trying to make a system to make money for expansion modules and other things like that. Instead of giving you a restricted list of characters, you can be any character you want. You get to make it. Okay?
You can play, if you want to play in the Harry Potter universe or in the Mandalorian, Star Wars universe, you can. That's what we want to do to enable your storytelling experiences. So go tell some cool stories or listen to ours. But the point is, it's about having fun. We really want to thank you for joining us. Once again, go check out Shad's new channel as well. We have many adventures ahead of us, dear brother, and you hopefully have many ahead of you. But we want to thank you for joining and watching and listening with us. And we can't wait to experience those adventures with you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching, guys. And listening. Check out the podcast if you're watching this on YouTube. See you later.
All right. So, what did you guys think of this?
It was pretty nice.
Go ahead.
I'll just go down the list. Albaster, what did you think? You listened to this twice now.
Yeah, so I've listened to it twice. It's interesting hearing from different people's perspective, but like I like Cogent because I am a storyteller. I don't play role-playing games like this to play a game normally. I started with role-playing just written word role plays. And so the way I come up to this and I approach it's a lot different than most of the other people in this call probably. And so there's just certain things that I like. Like I like the ability to say, this is how I'm going to do this. Not, this is what I'm trying to do. Now I'm gonna let me roll and see if I can do it how I want.
Okay. DSV.
Like, you know, all the
Your microphone's cutting in and out.
I liked how they turn out.
Your microphone's still cutting in and out.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Is it?
I'll just go Emerance, Emerance, do you have a microphone?
I was just muted. Yeah, especially as someone who hasn't actually played the game yet, but I was interested in like running it for a few people to help learn it. This also just, helped me like visually and in my brain make more sense of the rules. I do see what you mean about the assists, where it's kind of like, yeah, you get to take a risk, but it also just kind of sucks to be like, oh yeah, I'm really good at this thing. Let me try and make it helpful. Oh wow, it just like completely screwed me over, and now it's like hurt me far more than I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely like.
I mean, even
before.
a master blacksmith can be, sometimes make a mistake.
My main
it's not
problem
that,
with
it's not that people can't make mistakes. It's just like, right, if I like tried to build my character in this vision of being really good at this thing, it feels different than just like the like D20, like kind of making something bad happen when I attempt a situation. It's like, okay, I made my character really good at this one thing, and now I just somehow went completely awry. Like, obviously people make mistakes, right? It's like, it just still feels bad to sort of have your character concept that you spent time working on or thinking about, like, used against you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Hell... Oh, wait. Who did Soap?
Huge Soap.
Huge Soap.
Okay. But that, who cares? So, frankly, for Cogent for me, going back to what Alabaster said, the way it's more roleplay centric, I think I like that better because from what I've played and stuff, that's where people seem to get the most fun from. Like the sort of role playing as your character, messing up and all that stuff. So I think it's good that it's more roleplay centric because I know the gameplay and stuff like that. I feel it's just a backdrop because if I wanted good gameplay, I'd go play I'd play a video game with them instead. But we're there for, the stories and stuff that we make together. So I like that roleplay sort of focus. it's good that they're going to be changing things and that they're saying that, because there was that thing that needed to be changed, which is the assist. So I hope they'll be changing that. If not, we can just homebrew. But what else?
Man, they make some really funny faces if you stuff on the freeze
Oh yeah,
frames.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
that
I've
was great.
seen a
They
few.
emote really well.
I
There's
sent
going to be a
so
lot of
many.
emojis from that.
I
So
probably had something else to say,
notable.
but I can't remember it.
Makai, but you, Mr. Tree Man. Is he saying anything? I'll go in general VC chat to see if he's typing.
general.
He is.
I don't think Mokai speaks generally.
Yeah, no, he's a tree. It's fine. I'm waiting for him to type something. Maybe the true stories are the friends we made along the way. That's what he typed so far.
Oh, he's typing right now.
Yeah, I see.
You're just role playing.
Osprey. I can see. Osprey, how about you? I'll read what he says after he types it.
Yeah, once he gets opinions on this video in particular. It kind of feels like they're pitching. It sounds like their pitch of the game, basically. It looks like their modern pitch of what they're saying, what they think the game is, and why you should play it.
Welcome to my Kickstarter.
It's a bit ramble. They ramble on a bit much and don't really kind of float around the rules. So I wouldn't call it it's a useful resource to learn the rules, but I wouldn't call it that. I'd say it's more of a pitch on why you should play the game, what we're trying to achieve with these rules. Here's an explanation for our actions.
Yeah. Pixel?
I honestly think that the best thing about Cogent is how flexible it is. And I think that they showed it very well in this video. How you can make a character in literally a few minutes if you know the basic rules. You can make any character you want in any setting you want. I mean, they played Japanese steampunk on the tabletop time.
Oh yeah, I need to watch that one.
Scary bit?
I need to watch that one.
Well, let's see. Basically, I do appreciate a lot of the sentiment with the whole structure of the system. I think it holds together pretty well. My main gripes would be around the assist system as well. I think that needs some capping or something like. Hey, wait, am I lagging?
No, you're fine.
You're good.
Okay, so yeah, I think that needs some kinds of reworks because, yeah, sure. For instance, in the example, a blacksmith could apply their knowledge mid-combat, but I think that sometimes when you get into general-purpose systems like this, there can be oversimplifications, you know? And I don't know. For traits to work into combat, I think there needs to be some kind of gradient as to whether that trait can be applied in a specific situation, you know?
Like the degree
someone.
to which it can be applied.
Yeah, something like that.
I want to just make it crystal clear. My my bias on the situation on assists. I feel like there should be at least a 50-50 chance of a player succeeding with one skill point in a vocation. Not specifically a skill, but a vocation. Like there should, because you're above average. Because they're saying that if you have no skill points in a skill, you are average. I'll get to you in a second. But if you have 1 point, and that means you're above average by a point in that skill, why is it that when you assist with that skill, you get a net negative most of the time? That's my concise way
Wait,
of saying what I don't like with it.
What do you mean a negative most of the time?
You get like a negative like 80-something% of the time if you roll with 46 or against a combat level of 3. I mean, a challenge level of 3.
But you can also assign the attributes.
Yes, but it's still like a net negative most of the
Also,
time.
you don't have to use the assist, right? Like it's
No, you don't.
risk.
But see, the problem is that what happens then is that the players realize they don't have to use assists, and then they never use assists. So I've had players who, at the start of the game, they use assist on like every roll, and then as they get to this like the end of the session, they just don't touch that part of the game. And if a mechanic in the game makes it so that they generally lose wins in a roll, they would just not use it. That's my problem with that.
Isn't this a case for why it would be nice to have levels, like some kind of context to the assists?
I would not agree because I like them not having levels. I do not want them to add levels. And Makai, he wrote Mantry, but yes, I prefer roleplay aspects to the game. I prefer roleplay aspects of the gameplay as it makes it much more flexible for the narrator and the player to develop what happens. Mechanics and explanations can use some TLC, which is why it's still an alpha. That's what the tree man wrote. Okay.
Something I wanted to say was I just remembered it. It said what they were doing with the you're adding the blacksmithing to the attack. I don't see that sort of thing being that common. Adding traits, adding your traits to your attacks and stuff. I don't think it's going to be that common in combat because they're still like pretty unrelated.
I would argue that it's still a problem.
It's really gonna be dependent on the narrator I think.
I'm not saying this in response to anything. I'm just saying that adding your traits like blacksmithing or whatever to your attacks and stuff isn't going. I don't think it's going to be that common.
It depends on the player and the narrator.
Yeah, exactly. I think some players
I would not
just be
say
like...
that. Yeah, I would not say that because it's a very case-by-case basis.
All right.
Let's replace blacksmith with deception skill, which can also assist combat. And let's say you are fighting dirty and trying to deceive someone with one weapon while attacking with another, or just making a fake attack and then a real attack.
Yeah, you see,
functions the same way.
That's a feint, though. That's just sword skill.
No,
that wouldn't be just a sword skill.
No. That's not, okay. We're arguing semantics here, but point is, you would use a skill to assist your proficiency with a sword, for example.
Yeah.
If you had the opportunity to, you would do it.
All right.
So yeah, this clearly seems like a part of the rules that needs some kind of like brushing up, because in my opinion, it would be kind of cumbersome to have people always going for assists like every few seconds.
Yeah, I wanted to have like not a 50-50, but I want the players to still risk something. Like maybe make it so that you can go below 0 somehow, for example.
Yeah, that is something.
However,
something else I wanted to mention. Like,
I'm not sure how they would do it, but that's just an example of I want them to still feel like they're always at risk when they're using an assist. However, I don't want them to feel like, man, I'm only going to use assists if it's a life or death situation where I know that I have to use it. That's my point. All right. Any final thoughts before I end the stream and end the recording and upload this?
I want to know how much health.
Give me money.
Hire me.